Hello everybody, I'm Solathalion, and welcome back to my Wings of Fire book review. I forgot to mention in the last video, but the playlist for the rest of the series will be linked in the description and at the end of the video. And the intro video that provides some of my background with the series will be linked in the description as well. Without further ado, let's get into it. This video will be covering Book 4, The Dark Secret, which is told from the perspective of the Nightwing of the Prophecy, Starflight. From spending more time in the community the past couple of months, one thing that I've found is that the Dark Secret is somewhat divisive. You either love Starflight and the elements the book brings to the table, or you don't. You'll figure out which side I'm on shortly. In a similar fashion to how Book 3 served as a mirror of Book 1, setting up numerous necessary things for the final trio, Book 4 sort of serves as a mirror to Book 2. It deals heavily with Starflight and his own character growth, like how Book 2 did with Tsunami. Once again, however, I feel that The Dark Secret does that style of book much better than The Lost Era did. Starflight's character arc is so closely intertwined with the plot of the book that I would argue his arc is the book. If you've watched my other reviews, then you know how strong my opinions are on separating the dragonettes, and how it usually creates a much weaker story in my opinion. Now I'm going to completely flip the script on all of you and tell you that I actually love it in this book. A lot of this review will be bringing up reasons as to why I think the whole separation thing is done well in The Dark Secret. One of the primary reasons is because of just how good the build-up and payoff is, and how it ties into Starflight's tragic arc throughout the book. Let's get started. The prologue finally steers away from the alternates, likely because we see plenty of them in this book anyway. Instead, it focuses on Clay's siblings, and a fight between them and an Icewind group. I like this prologue because it steers our attention back to the fact that there's a war going on, and that dragons are relying on the main cast to end it. That also makes the reveal at the end of this book, and its implications, that much more heavy-hitting. Part 1, The Secret Plan. Part 1 picks up right where Book 3 ends off. Starflight has been captured by the Nightwings once again, and this time we are brought alongside him. Part of his arc in this book deals with him trying to balance both loyalty to his friends and to his tribe. I think that part of him attempting this balance is fueled by insecurities and his nervousness, and that he doesn't know how to properly come to a conclusion about what he believes. This leads him into doing this weak playing both sides thing in the first parts of this book. He instantly sells out glory under the pressure of the Nightwing meeting, actually telling the other Nightwings that the Rainwings are planning to attack. He instantly feels the guilt of this decision, and I find it easy to sympathize with his character here, despite making things worse for his friends. He's scared, separated from his friends and the people able to protect him, knows how weak he is trying not to do the wrong things, but he just succumbs to the pressure. This part also establishes just how terrible things are on the Nightwing Island. Starflight notes just how thin all of the Nightwings are, and it's also mentioned that hunting is done on weekly schedules. When they do get to hunt, they eat the rotting flesh of dead animals, which is, kinda gross. Living on a live volcano also adds just a little bit of suffering to the Nightwing tribe, which is demonstrated by parts of the fortress having been destroyed by previous eruptions, as well as the dead Nightwings in the lava field that Marosir points out. Despite how bad things are for the Nightwings, their actions still make them despicable, as shown when Starflight meets his father. Mastermind is a really important character for the plot of Book 4 and thus Starflight's growth. He's a key piece of the puzzle that pushes Starflight away from the Nightwings and back towards his friends. I enjoy that Mastermind is initially someone that Starflight can actually relate to, and that he's able to find some comfort with his father on an island of aggressive strangers. The reveal that his father is the one experimenting on and torturing the Rainwings is heartbreaking for Starflight. It just makes him feel more alone than he already was. The scene also introduces us to Orchid for the first time, after her being mentioned in the Hidden Kingdom, and Starflight telling her that Mangrove is looking for her is one of the many moments in this book that makes me really like Starflight. The scene is also something that pulls Fate Speaker to Starflight's side, as she is also disgusted by what the Nightwings are doing to the Rainwings. Speaking of, I find that Fate Speaker is another one of the divisive parts of this book. She's sort of an older Nightwing version of Kinkajou, and if you can look past her quirks, I actually find her to be a very compelling character, especially in her relationship to Starflight. Throughout The Dark Secret, she helps to light a fire under Starflight and pushes him to take action. On the flip side, Starflight is there to help support her in some of the rough events that happen later in the book. Their relationship is one thing that really strengthens the book in my eyes. Of all the complicated adjectives that apply to Starflight, one thing is for certain: he's a smart cookie. Throughout the first part of the book, he takes all these bits of information, the Nightwing's fear of the Rainwings, the tunnels, the experimentation, and puts together what the Nightwing plan is, the invasion and taking over of the rainforest. Starflight figuring this out leads directly into Part 2, The Queen's Secret. Let's talk about the other alternates in a quick lightning round. Flame is maybe unintentionally kind of funny. Ochre reminds me of if clay had no redeeming qualities. Viper is just kind of mean, not much else to say there, and Squid is a massive piss baby. These characters are all meant to be unlikable, mission accomplished there, but serve an important purpose in helping Starflight to understand the position he is in. They also serve as foils to Face Speaker's character, contrasting their rude and uncaring nature with Face Speaker's sympathetic one. The fact that they are unlikable draws parallels to some of Coral's counsel from Book 2, but they serve larger purposes to the greater plot of the arc than Book 2 does, so they work way better in my opinion. Part 1 was already rough for Starflight, considering the hostility of his tribe, the harsh nature of the island, and the fact that he feels completely isolated. Things don't get much better in the second part. It starts with the alternates being told to hunt him down and kill him. We see Starflight escape with his wit here, which I like. Flame does his humorous "we're here to kill a Nightwing Dragonette" thing, which is also enjoyable. Fate Speaker finds him, and I like her little one-sided conversation while he's hiding in the dark. It shows that she cares for Starflight as well as the Rainwing prisoners. Even in that one-sided conversation, we see Starflight long for his friends, wishing he could be more like them, which reveals even more of his insecurities. When he goes to sleep that night, he dreams of Sunny. I haven't really talked about Sunny much, despite how much she matters to Starflight. As of right now, she sort of serves the same purpose in terms of motivation that his friends do, just to a greater extent. I'll talk about her more when we get to Part 3. That night, Starflight is dragged along by Fate Speaker to explore the crumbling part of the Nightwing Fortress. Walking there, he continues to fight the balance in his mind, first saying to himself that he belongs there as a Nightwing Dragonette, before reassuring himself that he belongs back with his friends and with Sunny. During this exploration, Starflight finds a Dream Visitor, which plays a fairly large role in every single arc in the series, and plays an especially important role in this book. A small important thing I forgot to mention in the last video was the confirmation that Scarlet was still alive, given that she dream visited Glory. Kind of wild that I forgot about that. Anyway, the Dream Visitor provides Starflight with hope, a way to reach his friends. The first Dream Visit section is outstanding. For one, it provides us with the first of our interactions between the Dragonettes, something that we, alongside Starflight, have been deprived of so far. This is another one of the big reasons why it works so well in this book, because Starflight is going through the same thing the reader is. It greatly helps us to empathize and understand just what Starflight is facing. Speaking of which, the hope that Starflight has is completely shattered when he realizes what his friends think about his disappearance. They were one of the things keeping him going, and seeing that they either think he betrayed them, or if he didn't, it's because he's a coward, that really hurts him. The line at the end of the chapter, saying that he went to sleep feeling lonelier than he ever felt in his life, is heartbreaking. Starflight doesn't get a break the next day either, instead having to fly to the main continent for another one of Marosir's tests. He's pushed by the first Dream Visit, and actually finds his voice when talking to the Skywings, only for the Nightwings to kill them all. The scene also cements how good Starflight and Fate Speaker's relationship is in my mind, with him comforting her when Squid is sent off by Marosir. After they get back to the island, I like how Fate Speaker is shown to be a dragon of ideas, looking to head straight to the Queen to talk about Marosir's actions, even if she knows it's a long shot. Starflight's dream that night exemplifies his longing for his friends, as well as his desire to help them. However, it demonstrates his inability to do so in the way that he's comfortable, just being able to study and read the answer off of a scroll. It illustrates the need for Starflight to get out of his comfort zone to accomplish something, which is another reason I really appreciate Fate Speaker as a character. She's someone who can bring that out of Starflight. When she wakes him up, they follow Flame, who's still funny to me, even in this more serious scene with Deathbringer, who's also good in this section. Weirdly enough, despite being a Nightwing assassin, someone who on the surface is a stark opposite to Starflight, Deathbringer is someone who he can actually really relate to. His longing for glory and strained relationship with his tribe is something that Starflight himself has been experiencing throughout this entire book. Battle Winner is another cool part of this section. Her entire character and backstory is super interesting, and she's also an intriguing antagonist. There really isn't a ton I can say about this scene in general. It's intense and thrilling, and it's another slight bit of hope lost for both Starflight and Fate Speaker. This leads into the second dream visit, which might just be my favorite scene in the whole book. For one, it gives great development to the other dragonettes when Starflight is looking for someone to visit. It shows where their worries lie, and Tsunami's dream with Gil and Anemone is especially chilling. When he's finally able to reach Glory, the tension and final "wow, you found a dream visitor" from Glory is just amazing. It's this huge sigh of relief and big payoff. It feels like you've been holding your breath for this entire book, and when Starflight is finally able to tell Glory what happened, you're finally able to breathe out. I love how his moment of doubt from the first dream visit leads into it too, wondering if Glory would even listen or trust him. I love how his worries about loyalty to his tribe evaporates when he thinks of Orchid and the thing that the Nightwings have done, and he fully commits himself to his friends. I love how Glory supports him and how he bravely steps up and is willing to be patient and just wait for help to arrive. This is an amazing moment for the book and Starflight's character. Unfortunately, he has to be dragged back to the reality of the smoky, barely habitable island, where the dream visitor being taken is foreshadowed. When the alternates and Starflight have battle training the next day, it leads to some heavily important events. For one, Starflight is willing to jump into action when Fate Speaker is attacked by Flame and Viper, another example of their growing relationship. Viper dies after falling into the lava, and Flame's face gets scratched in the process. I like the detail of Marosir caring more about Flame than Viper, since he didn't have another Skywing that could replace him. Starflight telling Ochre to go and try and save Viper reveals in a clever way to him that the alternates couldn't possibly replace him or his friends, as their births don't actually line up with the prophecy. With newfound confidence from the dream visit to Glory, he actually stands up to Marosir, but he instantly claps back at Starflight's insecurities, showing that it isn't some perfect fairy tale ending where Starflight is magically perfectly courageous and without fault. His insecurities are still present. Despite just witnessing one of the dragons she thought was her friend burn in lava, Fate Speaker still stands up for Starflight, and their conversation heading back to the dormitory is really great growth for both of them. Starflight even admits to himself that Fate Speaker is on the same level as his other friends, which demonstrates just how much he's grown to care for her. When Mastermind comes to talk to Starflight, you see how much has changed from their first meeting because of how uncomfortable Starflight is with him, not even wanting to be around him. I like how he has to consider giving his father the Sandwing Venom cure, because of how little he trusts his own tribe with that info. I do like that he decides to do so in order to save Flame's life, but he's interrupted before he can. Starflight finds out that the Nightwings had tried to grab Tsunami, but his dream visit to Glory had actually saved her, which is just a great bit of payoff. However, this does lead to Battlewinner deciding that they need to attack that very night, which builds instant tension and panic as we jump into the third and final part. Part 3. The Truth. The tension builds even further when Starflight realizes that the dream visitor has been taken, and that he has no way to warn his friends without getting off of the island. It's an excellent moment where the train just goes off the tracks and Starflight has to think on his feet. I like that Fate Speaker is with him, and I like the moment where she once again lights the fire under him and makes him realize that they need to get off the island. Starflight's plan with Flame is clever, and I love the line, "We can use your tragic face to get us off this island." Starflight thinking on his feet to get past the guards and through the tunnel is also a great showcase of his character. We are finally rewarded after all of the suffering and darkness in the first two sections of this book with mountains of payoff when Starflight is finally able to reunite with all of his friends. The moment with Tsunami and Clay and all of the Rainwings when they get through the tunnel is great. Reuniting with Glory and then Sunny is another sigh of relief for Starflight and another confirmation of where he really belongs. I love how well Glory fits into the queenly role. I think it really fits her. I also love Sunny and Fate Speaker instantly getting along. It's a really fun instantaneous friendship that I think really works well. I love how we see characters like Mangrove and Grandeur that were introduced in the Hidden Kingdom, and how they stay relevant here. It's part of what makes the final trio feel so interconnected. When the planning for the rescue begins, it feels great to have all of the Dragonettes interacting with each other. It's quite literally a breath of fresh air after being stuck on the Nightwing Island for most of the book. The one thing I dislike about it is the way that Sunny is treated. I really feel like her friends at this point would respect her voice more, but the fact that she has to go through Clay kind of just irks me. I know that this kind of thing has been set up for since the Dragonette Prophecy, with them not telling Sunny about the escape under the mountain, but I feel like they've been through so much together at this point that they would just trust her a bit more. I'll talk about it more in the next video, but this is also something that irks me about the setup for Book 5, as well as Book 5 itself. I've gone this long, it's time to properly talk about Sunny and Starflight's relationship. I mentioned before how Sunny was a driving force for Starflight while he was trapped on the island. His crush on Sunny had been talked about since the first book, and in The Dark Secret we really see how much she matters to him, especially during the dream sequences and when they reunite. I think that him finally confessing his love before the rescue is obviously not great timing, all things considered, but it's really needed for his arc. I also really love that it's not a perfect fairy tale moment, and Sunny doesn't just fall for him right there. Starflight confessing is scarier to him than anything he faced on the Nightwing Island, and him finally being able to admit his love for Sunny to her shows how far he's come since the beginning of the book. The actual rescue is great. I agree with Glory, I love how Rainwing it is, and it shows how much of a dangerous force they really can be. Mangrove and Orchid finally reuniting is a fantastic moment, and Glory cements herself as a compassionate queen by letting them lead the battle. Glory, Fatespeaker, and Starflight going and confronting Battle Winner is a really good moment. Starflight making the suggestion that the Nightwings bow down to Glory is brilliant in my opinion. He is well aware of how bad the situation of the Nightwings is, but he knows that that doesn't excuse their actions. He and Glory also know that they can't just let the Nightwing tribe die out. Battle Winner's death in the sequence is a really cool moment, and I like how it's a result of her own pride, showing that she wasn't willing to give up her queenship. Her death is instantly followed by the volcano beginning to erupt, which adds even more tension to an already crazy sequence. I love the rescue of Deathbringer. He and Glory's moment is really nice. The Nightwing swearing loyalty to Glory as they exit through the tunnel is a pretty interesting moment. Starflight's confrontation of his father is really good and quite mature. Finally, they confront Marosir. The massive bomb drop he lays at the end of the book is crazy good, and after all of the lying and conniving that the Nightwings were doing to try and snatch the rainforest, I think it makes perfect sense. On the other hand, I actually hate what Tsunami says to Sunny about being free from the prophecy. It's pretty boneheaded. I think it makes sense for Tsunami's character to think that way, but saying that to Sunny is incredibly short-sighted. It's just another setup thing for Book 5 that really irks me. The volcano then explodes and Starflight pushes everyone through first, leading to the lava blinding him before he's saved by Clay. I know that this is another divisive thing about this book, but I don't really understand why. Arguments are made that Starflight's blindness doesn't do anything for his character, but I disagree. It allows him to connect more with Fatespeaker, and frankly, it's not like Starflight has a super important role in any book after this one anyway. I also kind of like his vibe as a blind librarian in the second arc. The epilogue is actually some pretty good setup for the final book, showing each of the Sandwing sisters and where they end the book going into the brightest night. Burns especially is quite important, revealing Scarlet as her captive, as well as introducing Smolder. These 2 points are especially important for Book 5. To conclude, I think that this book is heavily underrated by the general community. I really appreciate the Wings of Fire books that don't have a ton of action, but still have amazing moments, character building, and world building, like this one. I might also just be hinting at another super underrated book later in the series as well. This book is also one of the only ones to separate the perspective character from the rest of the Dragonettes and have it actually be good. For one, it ties into Starflight's arc through his feeling of loneliness on the island, and allows him to build his relationship with Fatespeaker. The buildup of his longing to get back with his friends, and the payoff of the dream visits and the escape back to the rainforest are also unlike many other payoff moments in the series. Through Starflight's emotions and longing for his friends, you still feel connected to them. Finally, being denied the presence of the other Dragonettes allows us as readers to truly empathize with the situation that Starflight's in. Starflight's arc in this book is just outstanding. His struggles with where his loyalty lies and his longing to do the right thing, being able to connect with Fatespeaker, finding it in him through his connection with Glory and the Dream Visitor to stand up to Marosir, using his brain and encouragement from Fatespeaker to escape, saving his tribe despite their wrongdoings while still being loyal to his friends, and most importantly, being able to admit his love for Sunny. Starflight goes through so much and grows so much as a character throughout this book that I find it incredibly difficult not to love it. As a result of all of this, despite a couple of nitpicks, I find it hard not to put this book in S tier. I hope I've made it clear as to why I think this book is so good and why it's worthy of its placing. Like I said in the last video, I'm going to be gone for this next week, so there will be a little bit of a gap between this book and Book 5, but I'm excited to finish up this arc and get into Winglets and Arc 2. Until then, have a good one.